Well, thanks to all of you for coming. Thank you to the Lord Mayor and the Minister for being here today and letting us hold this event, the first of its type here in Belfast. And as was said earlier, we're extremely proud to be part of Belfast. A lot of what you saw on the screen there is mission critical to the entire financial services process and community globally. And many parts of it are built right here in Belfast. And we're extremely proud to be able to say that. And we thank our partners and our sponsors and all of you, the delegates, for arriving and being here with us today, and the online community that's watching this remotely. Welcome to what I think is going to be a really, really interesting day. And my role today is to really set up the rest of the conversation that we're going to be having together throughout this session. Last night we were sitting with the finance minister, who said, you know, Belfast has a history of building really big things, and we're in a museum to memorialize a very big thing and a part of the industry that Belfast was known for. But Belfast has gone through a massive transition and now is emerging as a center of excellence for digital technology, and we're really, as I said, glad to be part of that. And I thought what we do right now is set off on a journey that says, well, what is digital DNA? What do we mean by that? How does positive disruption happen when you use technology to change something that previously was the legacy way of doing business? Are there ways you can use social media, use digital technology and content to transform the way business is done and transform the lives of people and change things for the better? And certainly we've seen that multiple times, and I'm going to run through a few examples of how digital technology can really improve the way the world works. So let's ask that question: what is digital DNA? Now, there's lots of different definitions, and as we said earlier, we're not going to be using lots of buzzwords today. But I thought it might be interesting just to sort of break that down a little of what does it really mean? In order to have a digital environment, effectively you need content and you need a community that can consume it. You need something that people are interested in, but having that interest without reaching a large critical mass of people that can do something with it, you don't really have anything of value. And the history of disseminating content to allow people to understand and take an idea from that content and actually do something is what's been happening over the last 30 years, obviously, over the internet, but it's been actually going on for quite some time in terms of being able to provide information that let people take a decision. And all of the business that we might be building using digital technology, the end purpose is to move somebody from not doing anything to doing something, so that we can create a commercial transaction or we can create a social event. And that is really the DNA that I see in social media and the use of digital technology. So this is something that has been going on for quite some time, and I thought it might be interesting to think, who was the first online community? Where did that all really start? Well, interestingly, probably one of the first commercial online communities, way before the internet, was the financial services industry, because people needed to be able to get access to information, and they needed to be able to find what the price of a particular stock might be or a security might be. And generally they would go into an exchange and they'd be able to understand what the price was, because someone was literally writing it on the wall on a big chalkboard explaining what the price of IBM or the price of General Electric was at the time. And then they'd wipe it off when a new price arrived. But as soon as you left that building, you had no idea what the price of any of those stocks were. You had to run back inside and talk to people and figure out what was going on in the marketplace. And that transformed about 30 years ago when prices started to go up on proprietary screens. And they would flick up it live, showing a security changing in price. And after a while, it became pretty obvious that what you would do is connect to that information source, the ability to hit a button to be able to buy that security or sell that security. And around the world, the markets took off. Interestingly, when this started, there were clubs of banks and dealers that would trade amongst themselves very, very quietly and then sell those securities out to a broader audience. And when electronics came along and someone came up with the idea of building a platform that would allow bond prices to be published to everybody so there was complete transparency, those large dealers and firms really pushed back against that happening because they had a secret market. They had a huge margin they were making. They could trade quite quietly between themselves. They were very happy with the status quo. And what would happen if this information went into a broader audience? And actually what happened is many, many more people could participate in the marketplace and volumes exploded. The number of people that could be active in investing in financial markets took off because there was more information, there was great distribution, because people started to build dedicated networks that would allow screens to exist around the world and flick those prices and people could hit those buy and sell buttons. And so we took off into a world where there is a tremendous global market for electronic trading. And I'm going to give you some numbers in a minute that are quite staggering. But I would ask you this question: where do you think that global electronic financial community started? Where did all of that start? Where did electronic communications between marketplace really kick off? Well, you might be surprised to know that it happened in Ireland. And that's a big statement. The birthplace of modern communications. You can take that home with you tonight. But that is true, actually, because in the mid-19th century, there was a cable that was laid between Ireland and Newfoundland. And for the first time, the American market could trade with the European market because that cable was launched in Ireland, right here, stretched across the sea, and instead of waiting for boats to go backwards and forwards, now in minutes, we could trade effectively real time. And the most important thing that we traded at that time was money, because there was a currency difference between the US dollar and the British pound. And if you walk onto any trading floor in London or anywhere around the world and say, give me a price for cable, you would think you're asking something absolutely insane, but that is the name of the currency pair for dollars against pounds, still 160 years later, because of the infrastructure that was started here and created the ability for people to connect content with action and create a media platform to change the way business was done. And the rest is history. We've gone an awful long way from there because once we started with ticker tapes where people were able to read stock market prices quickly, we've gone into, if you went to Chicago 20 years ago, you would see a room like this with thousands of people screaming with bits of paper. Now if you go into a trading floor like the New York Stock Exchange, you see a very, very quiet electronic facility. And a large amount of traffic is now generated not by human beings that are trading but on their intuition, but by computers that are making very, very rapid decisions. And all of a sudden, speed becomes very, very important. The quicker you can get the information, the quicker you can analyze it, and the quicker you can send an order back to an exchange and transact gives you that advantage. And a few years ago, the New York Stock Exchange realized this was an incredibly important development in the marketplace and acquired a very cool startup company called Wombat. Why an Australian marsupial name would be picked for a company here in Belfast, I don't know. But we acquired that company, and that is the foundation of our investment here in Northern Ireland. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. Now, it's not just financial services markets that have transformed in one location. We now have a global network that links the entire community, and electronic transactions happen all the way around the world every single day, linking up every asset class, whether it's equities or foreign exchange or the debt markets. All of those are now brought together through a global platform that we run in every corner of the planet, connecting every marketplace, whether they're electronic or a brokerage or a bank, trading between themselves, now all on one global live network. And as a result, we are recording some pretty amazing digital DNA numbers. 8 million trades in all asset classes every day. 1.4 billion messages a day. And if you can read the small text, that says that is a multiple of what happens in Google even. It's an incredible amount of volume going through these networks, generating content and action. And so that business model is something that we can all learn from, and we can think about how does that change businesses as we go forward. We're not all going to be inside the financial services business. We might be like Chain Reaction, an amazing business that you're going to hear from today, that started in a small store and now is the world's largest retail provider of bicycles and cycle equipment around the world. And if you log in North America, which I've done, you have no idea where that company is run from. It is a global presence, and it's a really fantastic thing to see. And we've obviously seen a massive evolution in financial markets, starting with people clustering around a tree on Wall Street, the Buttonwood tree, who basically met regularly to understand what they would do to trade, and formalization of trading markets and exchanges, all the way through to a highly automated global presence that I've just talked about. But every time, on every step, there's been a moment where we've been able to say, how do we get that community broader? How do we find more people that can come to our destination and do business? What can we use in terms of information technology to make the markets more efficient and attract more people to feel that they're operating in trust, they've got a fair market that they can understand and they can participate in without risk? And that's been the core thesis behind what the New York Stock Exchange has done and the Euronext exchanges have done around the world over the last 30 years. But actually, it's not just financial markets. Imagine you were a company that held a fantastic supranational company. You had multiple business lines, all of which were highly proven. You had a camera division, electronic camera division. You had a mobile music, portable music division. You had a movie division. You made cameras. You made laptops. You made PCs. You made all these different products, and every single product line was run by people that focused on the next camera competitor. And how do I get an edge in that particular little marketplace? How do I get that edge? Or how do I make my computer laptop better than the next guy's computer laptop? What happens when somebody comes along and completely disrupts that model and says, it's over? I'm going to take all of those products and I'm going to aggregate them in an electronic device. And when Apple came along with the iPhone, and when Apple, a company that people had written off, reinvented itself around how do I build a community? How do I open up an opportunity to get content, give it distribution, find an easy way for people to access it, and then act? That absolutely transformed the world that we live in, and all of those companies, all those legacy companies, were replaced by a completely new paradigm. And that has all happened very recently, and it's transformed the way things are done. And actually, it's completely counterintuitive because people fight against it. The music industry fought back really, really hard with huge legal battles to stop digital music going online for transport across the internet. Stop that content going to anyone that could act, because we want to hold on to it, just like the bond market did in the 70s. Actually, there's been a massive revolution in the music industry because now you can get huge distribution. You can buy one song, not an entire album. You can buy the entire album. You can buy an entire collection. You can republish music that was produced 30 years ago and everyone wants it. And all of a sudden, the music industry is a beneficiary of this huge new way to take content and give new distribution. And so the adoption rate of new ideas is only within the limits of our minds. And that's what the mayor was talking about this morning, that here you have a community that has the ability to change the way the world works. You have an enormously rich set of people that can think differently. You have nothing to lose by being disruptive, and you can go out and create brand new ideas. And that's why we have such a good time working with the young people and the team that we have here in Belfast. It's counterintuitive in software. If you were a musician, and lots of people would like to be musicians, and you played with computer software, electronic software, a few years ago you would have paid $300, $400, $500 for a copy of a piece of software you'd load onto your PC. And now it comes free with iTunes, or free with your PC. or you can buy a similar application for $1.99 in the App Store. So the App Store model has completely transformed the software industry. So all those companies that ran big proprietary deployed software and sold it one piece at a time can now have a much broader global distribution with a much lower distribution cost. The consumer gets a much better deal and has much more choice. And the number of people participating in producing music has exploded around the world. And all of our kids are playing online, trying to find ways to create new music, and some of them are making careers out of it. And that's a fantastic evolution based on the fact that you can take content, you can give it distribution, and people can have access. And so that's the core of any digital DNA strategy. What is the content I'm giving to my community? Now, the other thing that's disruptive is that the channel by which the product is delivered has completely changed. So now I can go to my iPhone, click a button, and a taxi can come directly to the door and take me to the airport. But previously, we had to go through a call center, an aggregator in the middle, and he would then, or she would then, connect to the taxi driver, and the taxi driver would wait and come back, and we'd eventually get a cab. But now I have a one-on-one relationship with thousands of potential drivers of taxis that can come directly to me. So the whole model of aggregation is starting to change into a completely distributed virtual marketplace where everyone can start to interact one-on-one. And that is a huge transformation, again, in the way that information and action works. So as we're thinking about business models, we shouldn't be thinking about the legacy model. Halo is a brilliant idea, but it's such a simple thing. Who sat and thought about the fact that the cab office around the corner could be replaced by an app? Well, someone did, and it's been incredibly successful, and now it's deploying around the world. So, this is not just small business, it applies to big business. There was a casino chain in Las Vegas that was failing in terms of its competitive position against other casinos. And they hired a technologist to come in as a consultant to understand what they could do with their business. And within a year, they made that technologist the CEO of the casino. Because he did some research and wanted to ask a question: what is the single most important thing a casino can do to compete? What makes us our money? And the answer was, it's simply a question of how long you can keep an individual inside your building. They've got to stay there. The longer you have a customer inside, the more likely you are to make money. That's why there's no clocks in casinos. That's why all those tricks are there to make sure that people don't think about leaving. But people do leave because they have a tolerance for loss. Now, this guy invented an app for the VIP customers of the casino. And so when they came in the building, the casino knew they were there. And from the minute they were in the building, that individual was getting managed. And they could monitor how much money that individual was making or losing. And if they were on the slot machine, they would know that the tolerance for this particular individual, they lose about $82 on average, and then they leave the building. So at $70, someone would walk over and say, "It's very nice to see you. By the way, we've got tickets to a show. We have the ability to, we want to give you dinner," get them away from the loss, put them into another activity, and then back they go again. And so that's what they did. And they figured out, they'd find the individual, they'd get to the point of time where they knew the content they had said statistically that individual's going to leave in about 10% more of his losses, so we'll stop him and we'll start to give him a good time. And when he's relaxed, he'll go back into the casino and put another $78 into the casino. And so the technology that did that actually comes from a trading environment where traders are being used every day, monitored for how much money is coming in and out using that buy and sell button, and making sure that they have a real understanding of the risks that the bank is taking and the portfolios that are being exposed. All of that is done electronically. And the same technology was used in the casino to monitor each individual, not as a gambler, but as a trader. Simple repurposing of a legacy idea, and it worked. That is the most successful casino on the planet today as a result of that, and that's happened in the last 10 years. So massive amounts of data are captured from all that action, content, action, and then the arrival of a transaction. But we record all that and keep history. And from that, we can monitor what is likely to happen next. So banks have one huge source of information, and that is every one of you has a credit card. So when you put your credit card into an ATM to get some cash, the bank understands immediately that you are not at home, you're in Hawaii, and you're on vacation. You must be on vacation because you don't go to Hawaii. They know it's your wife's birthday in 2 weeks' time, so they send you a message saying, welcome to Hawaii. If you use our bank card at Prada while you're there to buy your wife a present that's due in 2 weeks, we'll give you a 20% discount. They are using big data, information that comes from social media, to try and find a way to attract more and more business. So the science of understanding how to analyze the data that's coming from digital DNA is exploding. And big data is a term you'll hear on Wall Street, but you'll hear it everywhere, as people try and look for ways to understand what it is that you should be doing with your business. If you go to JP Morgan today, they can tell you where you should open a Gap store and where you shouldn't, what street. Simply by the fact they've got so much data on retail traffic coming from the people that use their environment. So they can add new services to their customers to give them advice based on information they can gather from all of the activity that we have out there using a digital DNA platform called a credit card. And so as we look at our business, we've transformed from having single products to go to single users into a platform business. And what I mean by a platform business is we understand there's a certain amount of capability that we can deliver as one institution. But actually, if we can crowdsource information and crowdsource capability from our customers, they can use our business as a platform to create digital DNA. They can take their asset, put it into our environment, and get distribution to our audience. And that audience will act back to that source. So we've moved our business from being a product company into a digital DNA platform that allows a community to come together, exchange ideas, and take action. And that technology is fully open, fully modern. We're not in a proprietary world anymore. We want people to share. We want people to be able to create added value to our solutions, just like Apple do with their apps. Every time a new app comes, it enriches the platform. We're doing the same thing in our world, where it's an open platform. You can share it. And you can use the content there, you can use the network and the security and everything else, but you can put your application on top. And so as a result, as I said earlier, we've become right into the critical path of the way individual banks and the entire community works. And that's what keeps the electronic markets and the financial services industry alive 24 hours a day. And the technology to do that is complex. And I'm not going to explain this diagram to you. But all of these assets come together in a unique ecosystem that touches thousands of participants around the world. Every single one of those building blocks is a very comprehensive piece of technology that takes content and adds value and gives it distribution so that people can act. And I'm proud to say that the core parts of that technology, the key elements of that, and the ideas behind it, and the design and the testing and implementation is done right here in Belfast. And we have people going out from here out into the world, installing that equipment and teaching customers how to use it. So we opened up our own Center of Excellence here in Belfast in 2010. And it is a major global R&D presence and development presence for our industry and our business globally. We bring clients from around the world into our facility to show off and expose our developers to international companies to understand what it is that we do. When we get that level of engagement, there's a team effort that comes from the customer and us, and it's because it's a people business. And the energy that we get from our staff and team here in Belfast, we're very, very proud of. And it's a great thing to show because apart from all the electronics, it's still a people business based on relationships. And we currently have, having made that acquisition of Wombat, now 300 staff full-time employed, and we intend to continue to build out that business. We've had an amazing relationship with Invest Northern Ireland. So I'm based in New York, and there isn't any other country that comes to me and treats me as a customer, like Invest Northern Ireland does. These people are working for you in Belfast, you in this region, to help you attract more investors, more participants in your marketplace, and they make it very easy for us to do business here. And it's that effort that's done on your behalf that is what keeps this whole energy alive for us. So we have a business relationship that is really, really important to us, apart from having just a set of resources here. And together with Invest Northern Ireland, we have built a plan to bring more companies into this area so that financial services and capital markets expertise grows in this region. And our competitors have come in, and there are other companies here. Brian, as we were talking about earlier, at First Derivatives, has become a partner of ours, and we're doing some very, very exciting things using his local products and knowledge and resource and ours, and we're creating new products just because we're in the community in Northern Ireland. So we're getting an additional benefit because there are other people with great ideas that we can leverage and partner with to create ways in which we can change the world together. So I would thank you again for coming. I think you're going to have a very, very interesting day. Just remember, it all started right here in Ireland. Thank you.